Westchester County, but I was raised in North Carolina. I have lots and lots of family in North Carolina. And the one thing I do not want to see, I do not want to see Mark Robinson become the governor of my home state. I'm an adopted Texan now, but my heart is still with North Carolina, what we call North Kakalaki. Mark Robinson should not become the governor of the great state, the Tar Heel state of North Carolina. All of my North Carolinian friends and family members, listen, you must go to the polls and make sure two people are not elected, two people who are connected to the hilt, Donald Trump and Mark Robinson. Stay tuned. I got more to say. Hello, everybody. I'm attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Each and every week, we bring you at least one legal analysis of some trending story regarding politics, policies, personalities, or pop culture to empower you with the information you need to defy this unjust legal system and to nullify systemic racism. If that interests you, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell so you'll get notified every time we upload one of these powerful and informative videos. Also, go to Amazon.com, grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice, How Public Schools Fail African-American Males, if you have an African-American male in public schools. Trust me, you need this book because I talk to you about how public schools absolutely mistreat African-American males, but what you can do about it. All right? So we need to talk a little bit here because man, our nation is under the threat of Donald Trump, Mark Robinson, and other people just like those two. It is just absolutely, totally, what can I say? We can't go down this road. We cannot elect people like this. I mean, it's just sickening what these two men represent and what so many other folks of their ilk around the country represent. We cannot let them get in the top seats across our nation. The federal government, state government, there's just no way that we can permit that. We got to go out and vote for Kamala Harris. And don't be ashamed of it. If you love your country, if you love your state, you will do everything you can to do three things: defend democracy, defeat Project 2025, and demand civil rights. And you cannot do any of those things with Trump in the White House and people like Mark Robinson, governors of states across this country. Now, we know Trump has endorsed Mark Robinson, which means all that Mark brings to the table now belongs to Trump. Now, Trump's going to come out, I'm sure, today, tomorrow, and make some kind of statement, probably today, because this is Saturday and he's on his way to campaign in North Carolina. So he's going to say something before or during. Who knows what he's going to say? He may continue to endorse Mark Robinson, or he may say, I barely knew the guy. Well, if you barely knew him, why did you endorse him? Because now everything Marcus said belongs to you. All right, let's listen to that endorsement when he actually said that Mark Robinson is better than Martin Luther King.
Watch this. This is Martin Luther King on steroids. Okay, now I told that to Mark. I said, I think you're better than Martin Luther King. I think you are Martin Luther King ×2. And he looked at me and I wasn't sure, was he angry because that's a terrible thing to say, or was he complimented? I have never figured it out.
Well, there you have it. There's that endorsement where Trump said that offensive and ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, preposterous, made that statement that Mark Robinson is better than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that he is Martin Luther King on steroids. Preposterous. It's deeply offensive because we know how Dr. King positively impacted this nation, made it a better nation, and improved the lives of millions of not just Black Americans, but millions of Americans, period. And Mark Robinson, all the stuff that he has said and that has come out about him, he doesn't come close to being better than or even equal to the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Again, it's offensive and it's asinine, to be honest with you. Now, I say that because of things that Mark Robinson himself has said. And we all have heard and read some of the things that CNN has reported about Mark Robinson. Look, I haven't independently verified any of that, so these are alleged things. Some of these things we heard Mark Robinson say out of his own mouth. Others he reportedly said. But let's go through some of those things. So first, according to CNN, Robinson called himself a Black Nazi. And that CNN report, Mark Robinson came out and denied that it was him, that AI had generated this stuff and so on. Believe whoever you want to believe, but he allegedly called himself Black Nazi. Imagine a Black man calling himself a Nazi. The people who murdered 6 million Jewish people that he has denied, by the way. Okay? He denied when he said, quote, "This foolishness about Hitler disarming millions of Jews and then marching them off to concentration camps is a bunch of hogwash," close quote. He called Michelle Obama a man and said he'll be glad when Barack Obama takes his boyfriend and leaves the White House. Some people need killing, we heard him say, in a church of all places. This is a very reckless comment for an African-American man to make, given how many Black men have been murdered because of white supremacy. And for him to say, some people need killing, is again totally reckless. He also said, whether you're talking about Adolf Hitler, whether you're talking about Chairman Mao, whether you're talking about Stalin, whether you're talking about Pol Pot, whether you're talking about Castro in Cuba, or whether you're talking about a dozen other despots around the globe, it is time for us to get back and start reading some of those quotes. So he's encouraging people to read Hitler. Hitler. He said also, note to liberals, I'll accept gay pride when you accept white pride. I'll accept gay pride when you accept white pride. Now, why is he advocating for white pride? Why is he coning like that? That's what that is. That's classic coning. Why is he advocating for white pride? Again, doing so is reckless because white pride has been the cause of a lot of Black oppression, Black deaths, Black lynching, and so on. This guy, he said February is Black History Month. I guess the shortest month of the year is all we need to learn about the separate but equal history of a people who have achieved too little. So our achievements, our great achievements as African Americans, in his opinion, is little. The self-Black hatred this guy expresses is unlike anything I've heard. I mean, he takes the cake for just expressing this stuff on social media and videos and so forth. To him, again, our achievements, going from slavery to becoming one of the re-elected presidents of this country. All the accomplishments in his mind are little. He said Kwanzaa is Hanukkah on food stamps. Kwanzaa is Hanukkah on food stamps, this guy said. Food stamps, as if all Black people are on food stamps. Most people on food stamps are white. Let's just keep that, let's keep it a buck, like the young people say. Someone asked me, and I'm still quoting him, someone asked me if I consider myself part of the African American community. I told them no. Well, that's pretty obvious, Mark. They asked me why, and I said, why would I want to be a part of a community that is crime-ridden? Neighborhoods are that way because many of the people who live there would rather fight the police than fight crime. So he's ashamed of himself, and he's broadly painting our community. He's doing what white people are afraid to do. He's their mouthpiece. He's their spokesperson. He say the things that they are afraid of saying, right? That's what he does. That's his job description. He also says, and this, my friend, is why the hood is steaming pile of human waste. The hood. He's making reference, obviously, to black neighborhoods. In his mind, black neighborhoods are a steaming pile of human waste. Again, the self-black hatred coming from Mark Robinson is astounding. It is astounding. But that's what you have to do in order to be a black conservative. You got to have a certain level of black hatred. And he exudes it through the roof. And the more someone is willing to exude that black hatred, then the higher they'll go up. All right? He said, I'd like to take this time to say thank you to Dr. William Barber, AKA Sambo, or is it Quimbo? Dr. William Barber is a very accomplished North Carolina pastor who is on the battlefield fighting for the rights of poor people across this country. He should not be spoken of this way. For his tireless efforts in helping white liberals in their quest to keep blacks in North Carolina poor, dumb, and voting for people who want them to stay that way. That is not what Dr. William Barber stands for. He stands for fighting for poor people, whether they're white, black, or whatever. He says also, that whole white privilege crap kills me, Robinson said. The red-headed slaves of Rome would get a real chuckle out of that term. So would the miners of Ireland in the 1800s and the factory workers of London during the Industrial Revolution and the Pilgrims. So in his mind, white privilege is nothing. He says that white privilege crap kills me. Well, Mark Robinson, white privilege is a very real thing. It is the reason why whites have 10 times the wealth of blacks. He also says, I'm going to say this and I don't give a blankety blank who doesn't like it or what you say about it. I'm tired of blacks and Mexicans running around shouting about being proud of their race. But when a white person does it, they call them a bigot. Look here, people. White folks came here with nothing and built the most powerful nation on earth, and they did it by force of will, wrote Robinson. I'm not saying that Mexicans and blacks should not be proud, but who do you think has the most to brag about? The folks who built Mexico, the folks who built the nations in Africa, or the folks who built the United States? Well, I agree. The folks who built the United States, who were black, Mark Robinson. Blacks laid the foundation for the United States. For 240 years, the labor of black people built America, not white people. Black people did the work. So if anybody got bragging rights, it is the blacks of this nation. You got all of this so twisted, trying to please and appease your white masters. Mark Robinson, come on, man. Come on here. What are you doing? He also says, if others can thump their chest and claim pride in their race, so can white people. If it offends you when white people say white pride, how do you think it feels when you say black power? Black power is in response to white pride, Mark Robinson. We had to declare black power to survive in this nation. in this systemically racist nation. So you're out here capping and being the spokesperson for white supremacy. What happened to you? What happened to you, man? What's going on with you? And all of the other stuff that CNN has talked about, the sexual stuff, I'm not getting into that. I'm talking about his beliefs, his practices, what his policies would be if he were to become the governor of the state of North Carolina. I'm talking about his self-hatred. I'm talking about his position on civil rights that I'm getting ready to show you or read to you in just a moment. That's what concerns me the most. What he has going on sexually is between him and God and his wife. I'm not even going to address that. Now, here's some of the things that he said about Dr. King. Quote, get that effing commie B word off the National Mall. Get that effing commie B word, B-A-S-T-A-R-D, off the National Mall. So he has problems with Dr. King having a statue on the National Mall in D.C. He also called Dr. King a maggot and huckster. I mean, he literally said these things about a man who greatly impacted all of our lives. If it wasn't for Dr. King's work, Mark Robinson, you wouldn't be enjoying a lot of the things that you're enjoying now. And these are alleged things that Robinson wrote. I've not verified them. So just keep that in mind. Quote, he said, I'm not in the KKK. They don't like blacks. They don't let blacks join. If I was in the KKK, I would have called him, talking about Martin Luther King, Martin Lucifer Cone. Close quote. And this is the man who wants to be the governor of my home state and the state of millions of other people. Here's another thing he said about civil rights. He said, quote, so many things were lost during the civil rights movement. So many freedoms were lost during the civil rights movement. They shouldn't have been lost. That spellbounds me. That completely floors me. The civil rights movement that gave Black Americans the Civil Rights Act of 64, the Voting Rights Act of 65, the Fair Housing Act of 1968. So many other laws that, as you've heard me say, I don't know how many times, that broke the back of Jim Crow. All that came through the civil rights movement. But he's saying that those laws took freedoms from whom, you might ask? Well, he's talking about white people. He's talking about white people. He's saying that the civil rights movement took freedoms from white people. I could stay there and make a separate video just on this statement alone. Just this statement alone. He is literally being the spokesperson for aggrieved whites who want to continue to segregate, to oppress Black people. And he's out here saying, speaking on their behalf, saying that they should have the right to do what they want to do in North Carolina to Black people, because that's what the civil rights movement was all about. Wow. Wow. He also said, quote, I believe that was the intention of Lyndon Johnson and all of his cronies, was to create a system that would keep Black folks in their place, keep them on a de facto plantation where they could not branch out, and steadily ratchet up the pressure on them, steadily bring the walls in on them. And it has been a concentrated effort ever since to make sure that Negroes stay in their place. The truth is, it's just the opposite. It was segregation laws. It was Jim Crow. It was sharecropping that was trying to keep Black folks in their place. The laws that Lyndon Johnson signed and made them become the laws of the land were the laws that gave Black people freedoms to get off the plantation, to stop being sharecroppers. His thinking is twisted, completely twisted. And look, again, to be a black conservative, that is to be in the good graces of white conservatives, you must think this way. You must think this way, and you must be willing to say these things. And if you do, then they will overlook so much other stuff and help you become the governor or Supreme Court justice. If you will say and believe these things here, if you will espouse this twisted logic, Lyndon Johnson signing into law those laws that I just went over did not keep black folks in place. They liberated black folks from the tyranny of white supremacy. We were freed from slavery in 1865, 66 by the 13th Amendment, but we still had grave clothes wrapped around our feet. And I'm borrowing from a biblical story about Lazarus, when Jesus calls Lazarus to come out of the tomb, but around his feet, he still had grave clothes, which restricted his movement. And so it was during the civil rights movement that those grave clothes were removed. Now, we still deal with systemic racism, but we got a big measure of freedom during the civil rights movement because of these laws that Lyndon Johnson passed and signed into law. And yet, Mark Robinson here, he enjoys these freedoms, but here he's capping so hard for white people that he condemns the civil rights movement. And then the man said, according to CNN, he allegedly said, slavery is not bad. Some people need to be slaves. I wish they would bring slavery back. I would certainly buy a few. I don't even know what to say. Now, once again, the man has denied saying these things that CNN reported. Although CNN did a lot of fact checking and back checking and believed that it tied Mark Robinson to these statements, I don't know. I don't know. But if he said these things, this guy's really, really, really off his rockers. And of course, we heard him say that blacks should pay reparations. So this is the man that Trump has endorsed. This is the man that Trump has endorsed. And I'm going to leave this video saying what I said in the beginning. My family and friends back in North Carolina, you must get out to vote. You must take our family members with you to vote, friends, etc., and keep Mark Robinson out of the governor's mansion. He is among the worst candidates to ever run for that office. And I say one of the worst because there were others who were slave owners. But according to CNN, he said that he wanted to be a slave owner too. So he's up there with the worst of them. And also, we need to vote for Kamala Harris because Trump endorsed this. Trump knew about a lot of this. He knew it and he endorsed it. He endorsed it. He said, North Carolina, this is the man that you need to make your governor. And he knew he said all these things and said he was better than Martin Luther King. So we must vote in Kamala Harris. We got to keep Trump out of the White House. And we got to keep Mark Robinson out of the North Carolina's governor's mansion. All right? I am Attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Thank you for tuning in. And until the next time, peace.